Hey, I'm back. This is Chandler for Melda Production, and recently somebody asked me how you could make a Berimbau type sound in MSoundfactory. So for those that don't know, a Berimbau is a instrument oftentimes used in capoeira. At my dojo, they actually have this, and I personally don't do capoeira, but they do teach capoeira there, so I've actually seen one, but I'm not actually that familiar with it personally. I know more about berimbolos than berimbaus. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instead, but hopefully this will give you an idea on how to do it and will get you someplace close. So I'll just let you hear the final sound I came up with. Although this isn't exactly like a berimbau, hopefully it's close. Here it is. So I'll show you how we got there, or actually I'll try to go through it with you. So we're going to start with this. It's blank. We have everything here. I had to turn the gain down. I have the envelope set just flat pretty much. I'm going to change this to monophonic. Next, let's go into the generator. I'm going to open M drum synthesizer 4NN, and I just made this preset called basic sine sweep. If you look inside here, you can see I'm just using one oscillator, and it's going down like this from 10K all the way down to 20 hertz, and it's doing that in 15 milliseconds, so it's very fast on just a sine wave. So actually, I should change this to auto restart, and when you hear it, it sounds like this. Just a quick clicking sound, that's all we need. Now the main part we need here is the resonator. You can use actually the string module if you like, but I prefer the resonator just because you have more like options to kind of tune it. So I recommend using the resonator and for drum synthesizer 4NN instead of just a string synthesizer. So we have the resonator in here. If we play it now, it's going to sound nothing like what we want. Sounds like somebody hitting a spring or something. So the first thing we want to do is go into the feedback, turn this up. I usually find if you want something that sustains a lot, around 98 is good. This sounds like a string, but we need more high end. So the next thing we're going to do is this low pass filter here. This controls the low pass inside the feedback loop. So let's turn this up more. You may have to turn it all the way up. So you can set that all the way off, or you can move it down a little bit. So that's pretty much your personal preference. Do with that however you like. Another thing I'm noticing is compared to the real berimbau, this seems a little bit bassy. So what I'm going to do next is just take a bandpass filter, turn the low pass off. I'm going to set this to constant, and let's move the resonance down to, let's say, 25, and move this around until it sounds how we want it to sound. Set that to personal taste. I think there is pretty much fine. Getting really buzzy, so this is kind of what we want, but we're going to actually add more buzzing later. I'll show you how to do that. The next thing we're going to add is the basic tone, and I went over this before, but what we're going to use is a tone, a comb filter, sorry. So go into here and filter, and we're going to go to this, try comb filter 1, see what this sounds like. You can hear that changes it. And one thing we can do is adjust the character. Just make sure, don't put the character at 100% or 0% because it's going to cause a feedback loop and you don't want that. Also, when you're doing this, make sure you have the limiter. This is on because you don't want to blow out your ears or your speakers doing this. So we can adjust this like this. And you can also adjust the frequency here. I think in octaves, usually you'll get the most bang for your buck, so I would start there. Getting a little bit loud. And also, remember, you have more than one comb filter. I think I found that, was it comb filter 6 here? Sounded the best. For now, this is sounding pretty good. I'll turn it off for a second so you can hear the difference. Hearing lots of the buzziness, so it sounds pretty good. You can also adjust the saturation here if you want it to be a little bit louder. Actually, let me turn the output down a bit before I do that. Oh, it said down. Here we go. So you can adjust that if you want. In this case, it doesn't seem like it's making a big difference, so I'll just turn that off. Now, we have most of what we want here, but if you actually hear a real Berimbau, one of the things you'll probably notice is it has the little pitch, I guess, rise. What I'm going to do for that is just go into the semitones, and I'm going to add one of the attacks here, like this. And let's control the depth, and instead of doing a positive, so the pitch goes up, I'm going to do a negative. So let's try a -2, like this. Let's make this a little bit longer so we can hear it. That's probably too slow. Change it to this. You can adjust that however you see fit. I think maybe 2 is too much. Let's try -1. That seems okay for now. So we have our basic sound here. And feel free to randomize any of these things. Another thing you might want to do is go into the synths and like change the randomness of this so it's not always the same thing, because I imagine with the Berimbau it's using a rock, so you can't always put the rock in the same place. So adding some pitch randomness might help, but I don't want to go over that right now. It's going to slow down the video. Let's move on. We have basically what we want. A few other things we might want to do is we might want to increase the buzziness. So if you think this isn't buzzing enough, after the resonator, what we're going to do is add a delay mod. So when I play this, you'll hear tons of buzziness like this. That's way too much. So what we're going to do is take the max delay and just set this at 2 instead of 10. Now that's nice, but we can't really modulate this, the max delay, and also it's not exactly right. So I'll show you a way you can kind of tame this. What we can do is go into here and we'll use filter basic because this uses the least amount of CPU. I'm going to right click it, go to input 1, close. Now in delay mod, I'm going to right click that and choose the sidechain for lane 2. Now you see it moves it there. And I'm going to use steal the sidechain so nothing comes out here like this. Okay? Now you're wondering, what does this do? So if I bypass it, it'll sound exactly the same, but I have it on low pass. Let me set this at, let's say, 25. So if you hear it now, it sounds like it's off. But if we move the frequency up, so what it's doing with this delay mod, it's, I believe it's modulating one signal, the first signal, by the sidechain. So when we alter it using the frequency, we can actually control how much of the buzzing we get and what type of buzzing. And I can also use the resonance for this. With this, we can also modulate this. So if you want this to be a little bit random, for example, let's say, set this at 25 here, and I'll set this to, I don't know, note random here. Just move this up, I think between 25 and let's say 35. So each time I hit it, it'll sound a little bit different. You could do the same thing with the frequency if you wanted more variations. And also you could set this with velocity, so if you hit it softly, you don't get so much buzzing, but if you hit it hard, you get more buzzing. So play with that. For me, the basic sound here is sounding pretty good. One thing I might change, I think I had it here at low pass off. I think it's a bit much. Let's move this down just a little bit. And then I can mess with this a little bit more too. Feel free to play with any of these parameters and see if you can get what you want. Next, I'll go into the effects, and this is where we're going to get the other part, the gourd. I don't even know what it's called, but it looks kind of like a hollowed out gourd that gives you some resonance. So this is a little bit difficult. There's a few ways you could do this, but the way I'm going to do it is by going in here and using convolution EZ. And just for this, I'm going to change the input to 1 and steal the input just so we can hear this by itself. I'm going to find something that's similar to that. And although we don't have anything exactly like this, we do have in here, let's say, guitar body. So if you use the one with the hole, that actually sounds pretty good. Let's try the other guitar body. This is good, and you're wondering, why don't I use the guitar body with the hole? That actually sounds a little bit more like the gourd, but the reason is we actually want to modulate this, because if you actually see the Berimbau, people move it, I believe it's against their chest and off, and creates like a wah-wah sound. So we want it to sound open all the time, and then we can use a filter to alter that later. But first, let's add a ratio in here, this. Let me take the steel off here, and sidechain 2. And steel sidechain. So now we can mix it fairly easily like this. And find something where you think you're comfortable. I think, oh, okay, maybe about 75. Now, and from here, we can use any type of filter we want. I could use, let's say, Wobbler EX and just put in auto wah here, however you want. Let's try something like this, see if it works. That's one way I could do it, or another way is I could go in here and use, let's say, filter follower, turn this down, and then move it manually like this. Set it here, and then I can attach it to a multi-parameter like this, move it up to like 2000 here. Okay, now I'll just name this filter like that, and go into here and attach a MIDI controller. So I have it here, and it's modulated by my modulation already, so I don't need to do anything. And I can just take my modulation controller and move that. And you can, of course, play with the resonance and things wherever it sounds good for you. And that's about it. So the other thing you might want to do is just put a reverb on it. And so if you listen to what I showed you before, it's pretty much the exact same thing. I think the only thing I did was I put another reverb on it. And if you look here, I have two things. So I have the filter, which I showed before using the mod wheel. And then I have this mute rock. So if I have it off, it sounds just like what you heard before. But now let me turn the mute rock on. You might be wondering, like, whoa, how'd you do that? And so what I'm doing with this is I'm just changing two parameters. So one is the resonator feedback here. Make this a little bit smaller. So you can see it goes between 98, which I showed you before, we set it at, and 80. So when it's on and being muted, the resonator is at 80. When it's not being muted, it's at 98, which is where we had it before. So that's just a small change. And the other change is in here for the delay mod. It goes from 2 milliseconds, which I showed you before, to 10 milliseconds. So it's muting it and it's giving it a little bit more buzzing like this. That's how I'm getting that sound. If you're thinking, I want it to sound a little bit like more high pitched, like that doesn't really sound like the type of rock muting that I would want, you could go in here and even alter this more. So I could go from 200 to, let's say, I don't know, 600 like this, and see if that makes a difference. So high pass frequency when it's off, let's see, be around 200 something. When it's on, it should be 627 hertz. I did it correctly. Yeah, there we go. So off, on. So that's how I simulated a Berimbau. I don't know if it's exactly like it, but hopefully it's pretty close, and hopefully it gives you some ideas on how you can change this. Obviously, if you think like, there's some things that sound off, hopefully I explained everything well enough that you can go in and change it to make it sound however you'd like it to sound. If you like this, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below. If you have any questions, leave those down below also. And check out all the other plugins at meldaproduction.com. Till next time, see you.